choice. Sometimes in life, you have to find your voice. Sometimes in life, you need your friends. And now's the time to give your ears a cleanse. We'll ramble on about movies. Ramble on about movies. With clever, arrogant, handsome Dan. Ramble on because the way.
Hoy ahoy, and welcome to the first live, brand new, so sexy you can see it now, live Ramble On About Movies. Proud member of the Pedunkin.
It's like Hadouken, but with a P and a J.
That's right, Pedunkin, the PJ Campbell Network. With me, as always, on the other side of the internet is handsome Dan Nye.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us. And with me on the other side of the country now is clever Eric Muller. Oh my gosh, this is kind of surreal. I don't think Eric and I really necessarily knew if we would be here in this kind of a capacity. Just the way everything has worked out. We had thankfully we had some very, very, very kind words, things spoken to us, and we were recruited by a fantastic network, and we were like, okay, these are our demands. We need 8-figure salaries each. We have this big long rider, and you know what? There was
Platinum
one gentleman.
cards.
Yes, and there was one gentleman.
I don't know from where, but they got to be platinum.
Yes, and so the namesake of the Pajugan, this guy, was kind enough to bring us on, and we were like, no, and we're just butting heads, and we're like, we can't do this, we can't do it. And then we finally had to get a mountain of a producer involved, just a massive talent.
The producer.
So when our powers combined, we resurrected Ramble On from the abyss that was 2020.
That's right. From
Gentlemen,
the ashes we rise again.
Do you know what you've done?
Unfortunately, no. I'm not even supposed to be here today.
I'm starting to realize what I've done.
Yeah, I don't.
Mistakes were made.
Yes, mistakes have been made. For anyone else we have other people watching us. For all of you, welcome to the thing that the internet doesn't have enough of, which is white dudes talking movies.
And it's white dudes with facial hair.
Yeah, I mean, especially 3 of us. One guy doesn't, but like it's.
I actually just shaved today.
I mean, baby
fucking
smooth.
the trend. I like it.
Yeah,
that's basically my life motto. Buck the trend.
That's
I
right.
thought you were saying it was baby smooth.
Oh, it is that too. I mean,
that's his creed.
We're really just here for an hour to watch Max like stroke his own face, just to be like.
I mean, have you seen how smooth it is?
Right. So
I look 15.
They gave me power, so I'm gonna keep showing this. This is Anton, who's my cousin, and he can vouch mistakes have only just begun. So, hey Jeff, welcome. For those of you who are new, or those of you who are joining us who have listened to me and Eric before, first off, we appreciate you making the same mistake again, because if you haven't got enough of our jackassery before, it's now back, and these guys are in for it too. But it's more or less like everyone has those chats where they just talk, and they're like, "What's your opinion on this? And what's your opinion on that?" So we just get to sit around, and this one is on movies. We're rambling on about movies.
Hence the name, Ramble On About Movies.
It's pretty clever. So, not to toot my own horn, but
hashtag humble brag.
Oh yeah, so much. But I'm lucky enough. These guys have joined us. Max and PJ decided to join us for our inaugural voyage on the Pajugan. Thank you again very much.
Yeah, of course.
And I want to hear their thoughts. And we've been, like I said, we took a long time off. There was 2020, honestly, there's so much movie news, but not a lot. And things have started to ramp up, and we'll go into that a little bit now. But I think where I want to start today, I want to start with one of the big things that we missed, which was how movies are going forward now. Because we've had a lot of things that are like day and date. They're coming out to streaming services, and they're coming out to either VOD or streaming service. If I'm remembering correctly, HBO was the first one that's like, no, you're getting everything day and date on HBO Max and in theaters. And then you're having other ones. I want to bring up just a little bit of how you have releasing of just television and movies to streaming, where you have just the dump that you get from Netflix versus the episodic that you've been getting from both HBO in the past and then Disney Plus. So, Eric, first, when you first heard that HBO was going to be doing that, how were you excited for it, or like were you apprehensive? Like they got it on it early because it was in December. So where'd your head go?
I was very excited when they first broke that news because I was worried, like, okay, how many garbage bags I'm gonna have to wrap myself in to go see Dune in the theaters, because I want to see it. I want to see it in the big screen, but it's good to know that I now have the option of being able to see it safely in my home. And you know, I didn't have to pay to see Wonder Woman 84, which is a blessing in disguise. And there's other movies, like I'm excited about a lot of movies that are releasing. Like I'm excited to see Judas and the Black Messiah when that comes out. I think it's next
tomorrow.
week.
I think it comes out tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
even better.
Mhm.
I know what I'm doing this weekend. And then next month we get Kong versus Godzilla. I mean, they were smart with how they're handling this, I think. Now, of course, I understand on the business side how they're screwing over directors, artists, all that fun stuff.
Max is a businessman who has a insight into the production side.
A businessman?
A businessman.
Yeah, businessman. That's
businessman.
That's how
It's
he
like
said it. Businessman.
It's like a businessman, only there's more acumen because I know you're an award-winning businessman. So
Businessman. Okay.
I'm quite sure you have a pocket watch that you like check to be like, not on time.
I have business, yes. You're really just three small children stacked on top of each other in a trench coat.
My name is Jonathan Businessman.
Jonathan Maxwell Von Businessman, I believe, is your proper title. But like, so I know, and that's why I wanted to get you guys on this initially, because we're looking at it like we've never seen, like we used to have these big long conversations about like, oh, this movie made so much money and you know it's going to get a sequel because it's already made like 3 or 4 times its budget, and like the whole landscape essentially is just different by the monkey wrench of 2020. So like with considering those things in mind, like I know you are a huge fan of live performances in general and go like the theater experience. So where's your head at with this?
Look, I mean, there are some people who have been going to the movie theater this whole time, right? Obviously, the movie theaters have not been open on the coast in LA and New York, which are the 2 biggest markets, but people have been going to the movies. It's a calculated risk. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but I think from what I've read, there hasn't been, major data showing that there have been trends of outbreaks specifically from movie theaters. The contract tracing is not proven to be. However, I think it is a risk, and I think even when movie theaters reopen, there is still going to be some trepidation on those of us who are more cautious. In the interest of candor, I will admit I've been to the movie theater twice since COVID started. The first was to see Tenet, which I saw on a weekday afternoon, and I was literally the only person in the theater. And the second was for Wonder Woman, which I did a private movie party. So we rented out the theater and it was just us. And boy, was it fun. But we can look at other studios and the constant game they are playing with nonstop rescheduling their movies.
And I definitely want to hear like thoughts about that as well, because I think the first thing we've really got that was going to be a tentpole that's like, yes, this is coming out is Bond. And so we know Bond is coming out in October. I do not think it's going to move again.
I don't either.
Yeah, I think they finally settled on October because it's been moved 3 times, I believe.
I think, and we don't have release dates for other ones. So it's going to be interesting. That's why I think the HBO Max was such an interesting deal, because you're talking about Warner Brothers and HBO being one of the biggest players, and they're like, no, this is we're committing to this, which I think it was smart of them to get in front of everything. PJ, I mean, I've heard you like movies. I'm not sure who told me.
Nope.
Yeah, like I'm really impressed with your green screen. Like you standing in front of someone who likes movies.
And I don't know.
The FX artists need the work right now.
I don't know why you would have so many jewel cases from compact discs, because those kind of went out of vogue not long ago. But
Physical media forever.
I've heard you say that before, and I'm a big fan of it. So with all that being said, like where I know. Again, you also love. I think that's kind of a blanket statement. We all here love going to see movies in the theater, and I know you've also gone twice. At least that I know. You've been
Twice. Yeah.
Yes.
Once was the private screening of Wonder Woman at Cinemark, and once was a private screening of Return of the Jedi at our local indie theater because I bought the theater out for the day after Christmas, which was dope as fuck.
So much fun.
Nice.
Look, I miss the theater as much as everyone else. I want to go back to the theater, but I also think that right now the world is still where it's at. Like, the entire last year was a fucking disaster as far as the media landscape was concerned, and a lot of studios didn't know what to do. They decided to push everything back a year for the most part to see what would stick, and now we see the fallout of that is how many of the movies are starting to push back again, whereas other movies are taking a stand and they're deciding, well, we'll release. WB, I think, is this one studio who, for all intents and purposes, probably did it right. Maybe not the right way, but they did it right. Everything's coming out. We should have talked to everyone first, but everything's coming out. Our schedule won't be pushed back a full year. We are getting everything that we did out, and you can see it in theaters, or you can watch it from the comfort of your home for 30 days. Not a bad call.
I think the one mistake WB made, and I think overall they have exhibited the smartest plan of any studio, is making the big swing of saying they're doing it with their entire year slate up front.
I agree.
If I were them, I maybe would have done it quarter by quarter, or at least say the first 6 months, because I think they may regret it come the fall.
I mean, they could always change their mind.
Right.
Like,
No, sure they could, but then they sort of have egg on their face, right? Like, I think by October, November, especially if we look at what Joe Biden said today, where we have now purchased enough vaccines for everyone to have one by July, that by September, October, this country will have created herd immunity. People will be vaccinated. Movie theaters will be open. Warner Brothers might not want to then put Dune on HBO Max because they want that sweet, sweet theatrical money.
So real quick,
Well,
everyone
I
who
think
doesn't,
Dune is still going theatrical only, though. Wasn't that like the big thing?
Yeah, because I remember they paid like $90 million for
Because I
Kong
think,
versus Godzilla.
But in the
to be on
trailer
that.
that HBO Max put out recently, Dune was still in it.
okay, because it seems like, at least in my opinion, that why am I blanking on his name?
Christopher Nolan.
No.
Dennis
and-
Villeneuve.
Yeah.
Dennis Villeneuve.
Yeah, so
Hey.
Denny Villeneuve, he seems to really want it to be theatrical only, but I'll say this. I think of all the movies that actually probably desperately need, in my opinion, having the theatrical and day and date release on HBO Max, it is Dune. Because I think that they only adapted, from what we understand, half the book. And if they don't get to finish it, then that's a problem. And I think that you're going to get more eyes on it if you also have it with the backs up front that you wouldn't necessarily have had. And that's why I still think that ultimately WB may have done the right thing. And I think at the time they were right in like doing it. The forecast has changed because I think that they, like everyone else, were afraid that Trump was probably going to be reelected. And then what?
And so here is, I will tell you real quick while we're still talking about this. This is a rapid fire list of what's coming to HBO Max, because it's one of those things that's worth noting, and they could rearrange it. So you had The Little Things, which came out last month. You have Judas and the Black Messiah, which is coming out tomorrow. Tom and Jerry, which is coming out in 2 weeks. Godzilla versus Kong. It's also worth noting Snyder Cut is going to be in there, which we'll talk about here in a few. The new Mortal Kombat will be coming out. Conjuring. Is this
The Devil Made Me Do It?
Yes.
It's the third movie, the 9th overall, I think, in the franchise.
And is this the one Patrick Wilson's directing, or
No, that's Insidious Chapter 5.
there it is?
He's in this, but he's not directing this. Then we also have June 18th in the Heights. The one I know Eric and I are really excited for, Space Jam: A New Legacy, in the middle of July. The Suicide Squad by James Gunn. Malignant, which is a horror movie by James Wan, in September. The Many Saints of Mary Newark, which I haven't heard anything
It's a
about.
prequel to The Sopranos.
prequel.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh,
John
yeah.
Bernthal, Vera Farmiga,
Yeah, I'm looking
and
at the list right now.
Gandolfini's son plays him.
Yep.
And then it does say, as of right now, Dune is slated for a day and date on October 1st. And then King Richard.
That's the Will Smith
That's
one.
the story about Serena and Venus's father.
Mhm.
The Williams
Oh, okay,
sisters.
cool. And then The Matrix 4, I think they've officially titled it Matrix, if I remember correctly.
It's the Matrix
Resurrection.
Resurrection. Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. Cool. This is how the show goes, guys. I apologize that I did a lot of research and this wasn't part of it. So The Matrix, and that's on September 22nd. And then another movie called Reminiscence, which is supposed to come out. Okay, these are all just maybe coming out, so I'll skip all those. But yeah, so there are some big tentpole movies that are there. I think they're a little bit loaded towards the later half of the year. It's going to be interesting to see if they keep Space Jam in the summer, because I feel like that would be a big theater pull.
Well, you get a lot of kids to watch it. I mean,
Exactly.
for sure.
And I mean, you're also going to be stir crazy. You're going to want to get kids out of the house. It is not the water cooler chat. This is a old news show.
I agree, Anton. I think Legendary should play hardball to make sure that they get the sequel to Dune on top of it, because as it stands, they're supposed to be the Sisters of Dune. Is that what it is? The HBO Max series also that is a spinoff that they've been working on. So like WB is trying to be all in on Dune, which is why, again, I really reiterate, I think that of all the movies right now that might need to day and date, because I mean, the closest thing I can compare Dune to is Lord of the Rings, in like it's a sci-fi, but this one's sci-fi instead of fantasy, like a sci-fi heavy film that is like real beloved by people, being done by a filmmaker who is a niche filmmaker for a lot, but is always like someone who's very beloved anytime they release a movie, and it's got a cast that rivals the same cast of Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to do well.
And that's my thing, is that if it doesn't do well, then you shoot yourself in the foot and you never finish the book. I mean,
look at Blade Runner 2049. I mean, that was a brilliant film, and it didn't make a lot of noise. Yeah, which is, of course, sadness. But I mean, this audiences don't like sci-fi for some strange reason, unless it says Star Wars.
But if you have it on HBO Max, where people don't have to go out to theaters, now suddenly people are clicking on it because they can watch from home. Right. And that's a big difference.
And I think that'll definitely help. I agree with what you're saying. And it makes me sad because that's I had this conversation recently with another friend of ours, and it was that like Villeneuve is one of those names that literally gets me excited to see. When I saw 2049 in an IMAX, I'm like, this could be the most depressing world ever, but I still want to live in it because it's so well like flushed out. It's just so vibrant in every way possible. Even in its despair, it was still a vibrant type of despair. So that's why, like, trusting Dune, and I think they said they gave him his choice of project, and he goes, I want to do Dune. And so I hadn't been that excited for, I never read Dune growing up, but I do know basically everything what you were saying. It's a beloved property. It's been around for years. Like, it's something that deserves to have that attention. And if it gets more eyes to it, I think that's great. And I think, Anton, you made a great point that they could play the hardball and be like, no, we want a sequel. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going back and forth. And I hope the movie doesn't like get shelved, because that would be awful. But
no, at this point it won't. I mean, Legendary and WB were able to play nice over Kong versus Godzilla. Like, the truth is that people forget, like, in the history of Legendary and WB, this wasn't even the first time they fought, because they were a company before together for a long time before Godzilla. Then after Godzilla, they left. And they started doing Kong at Universal, and then they had to go back because they did a couple of movies at Legendary at Universal, like The Great Wall. They did Pacific Rim Uprising there, and then a bunch of stuff. And then eventually they made nice with WB because they wanted to do the Godzilla versus Kong thing. So they came back over after, but it's not the first time that they've had their own issues internally between the two studios. So like, it was always a matter of time for them to figure it out. It was just a matter of how it got figured out.
Mike, Eric, and I will definitely be in touch about that. And then I actually wanted to let's scroll back up. Also, you said about this, it's one of those things. I think Eric and I are in the same boat. Like, I am now in one of the most densely populated counties in the country, so we're definitely not going to the movies anytime soon. They won't open theaters, but like, it's just a level of comfort. I think the fact that Max and PJ were able to get into private screenings is probably, if you really want to go see movies right now, that's the way to go. You can find people in your bubble, or people you know are vaccinated or have tested negative. There's ways to do it. But
yeah, and for what it's worth, my plan / hope is to do private screenings for both Raya and the Last Dragon and Godzilla vs. Kong. Both of which are
okay.
Well, they're not putting Justice League in theaters.
It was a joke.
I wouldn't I wouldn't, even if it was.
That's why that was the joke.
That is the joke.
Since you brought it up, that was on the list. Let's just go right to it. So that's a thing now, which is a thing that we've discussed so many times. I'm so sick of talking Justice League. I tell you what, like we talked about it for years, and the speculation and the pontification where it's like it's a thing, it's not a thing, and it was an assembly cut, and then it's a real movie, and it's like,
or maybe it's a miniseries.
No, I think it's officially slated.
Well,
maybe
THR in their report today once again had it as 4 episodes, so we don't know what's going on anymore.
Maybe the real Justice League is in here the entire time.
It was the enemies we sent death threats to along the way.
Oh boy,
I couldn't even get through that joke. That's awful. And this. So let's just start with that. So Justice League is a thing. It's coming to HBO Max. Eric, what are thoughts?
I mean, seriously, it's a true story. My buddy got married the day after Justice League was released, and what he wanted to do for his bachelor party, he wanted to go see Justice League as his best man.
The first one, the original OG Justice League.
I'm going to interrupt just for a second and say Justice League came out the Friday, then I got married on Sunday. And I went and I took Friday off. I went and saw an early morning show by myself and then had lunch with my dad. So it was like my private bachelor party, my last movie I saw before getting married. So that's weird.
Aww.
Yeah, like it was great. We all went in different superhero T-shirts, and then we went and we saw it. And the rest of the guys, since I don't drink, got drunk and depressed talking about it on the way back. They're like, "This movie is horrible." Eric, make a left here. But it's one of those things where it's like, if you want to see the Snyder Cut so bad, this is it. You got it. So you need to hope that it's one of the greatest things that ever happened to justify its existence. You want to take a movie that literally bombed, invest another $100 million into it to try to make it something good. You know.
Thanks, Sean.
Professor, you're correct.
That wasn't my real bachelor party, but
yeah.
You want to take this, property that, it's got it's tainted, it smells bad, you don't want it around, and you want to again try to justify its existence by saying, "Oh, this is what it's been the entire time," but we're going to spend $100 million to make it so. I'll probably end up watching it, but don't expect.
I'm sure we all will. We'll all.
Look,
I'm not freezing any crow to eat afterwards.
Should I play nice or should I be honest?
We're about honesty here. We're about honesty here.
So
I want to hear it.
Look, I think it sets a bad precedent in so much as there was a certain level of toxicity and bullying online that I think to an extent helped create this cut. I also think from a business perspective, it was AT&T saying, we need something that makes HBO Max stand out to get subscribers. This was before the announcement of the day and date movies for 2021. The Snyder Cut didn't exist. If it existed, they wouldn't have had to spend $75 million and months of reshoots to do it.
Correct.
So it didn't exist. It's basically a brand new movie. The reality is, it could be the best movie ever made or the worst movie ever made. 99% of people have already made up their mind. Yep. The people who have been clamoring for it and tweeting about it for years are going to love it. The people who have been rolling their eyes at it are going to hate it. I actually think Zack Snyder's a talented filmmaker. But I think what he's exhibited best at is when he is not working with superheroes, because I don't know if I think he quite gets what I like about these certain heroes. Yeah. Other people disagree, and I'm not telling them they're wrong. I'm just saying, for me, his depiction of certain superheroes is not what I like. But I think Dawn of the Dead is awesome. I love his Owls movie.
I like 300.
I was going to say 300 is
solid stuff in it.
Yeah. Watchmen too.
The other side of it, of course, is for Zach, on a personal note, I'm gratified that he did get to finish the film because it's well documented, the personal tragedy he suffered, the loss of his daughter. But to say I'm looking forward to the movie would be wrong. I am morbidly curious about a 4-hour superhero epic that was half filmed in 2016, half filmed during COVID on sound stages. What is this going to be? Who the fuck knows?
Exactly. And I want to circle back to a lot of what you said. PJ, Snyder Cut. Where's your head?
I mean, look. Truth of the matter is, we gave a mouse a cookie. Now look at this. How the fandom's acting. They're already on. They've already moved on to. They don't just want the Snyder cut. Now it's restore the Snyderverse. This was the problem in doing all of this. The hashtag has already started. They're already bombarding AT&T and HBO Max and all of this stuff. Maxwell's 100% right. I'm glad that Snyder gets to finish his cut, specifically because I think any filmmaker who had what happened to him happen should never this is all on WB. That just the fact of the matter is they hired him to do Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League. They should have just seen it through to the end instead of firing him, which we know actually happened. It wasn't just the thing with his daughter. He was fired.
They also hired his replacement, ignoring what a fucking piece of shit creep he is, as we keep finding more out about.
Yeah.
Is a filmmaker who's stone. I just combined the words tone and style and called it stone. Who's stone? TM.
His very particular stone.
His very particular stone is like diametrically opposed to Snyder's stone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you can go back and you have more to add to this, PJ?
Yeah,
right
I mean, specifically, yes, because I was going to say, and to that point, the only reason they did it was because of the Avengers. They wanted Joss to basically turn Justice League into the Avengers, and because WB has continually been one of the most reactionary studios of all time when it's come to how they've treated their superhero films. And it's fucking exhausting. Look,
Yes.
I want to see the movie out of the curiosity of seeing what Zack wanted to set out to do. But it's going to be super frustrating because at the same time, it apparently ends on a cliffhanger. And if we don't get an end to the... So we've got this 4-hour movie that ends on a cliffhanger, then what?
Cool.
It just... None of it makes sense. I'm glad that he gets to see it through. But what's the end game? What's the point of it? And that's my thing.
Yeah, no, I'm with both of you. You guys pretty much are encapsulating all of what I was saying too. Another great friend of the show was saying that he said it made economical sense to do this, and I was like, thank you, Max. And somebody will screenshot that later. That is trademark, Maxwell Haddad. So it's one of those things that my buddy was trying to argue, other co-founder of Ramble, my buddy Chris. He was trying to argue that it made sense from a purely financial standpoint, and I'm like, going to a streaming platform, not purely and everything you guys were basically saying, I am in lockstep with. I'm glad he's getting to see the project through. I'm glad.
What does that mean?
Thanks a lot, PJ.
What does that mean?
Maybe they agree with you.
Yeah, but it also feels disparaging.
You're automatically assuming a sarcastic intent, which says more about you than it does about Reed.
He could be genuinely thanking you.
Right.
Oh, maybe.
Thanks a lot, PJ.
Thanks a lot. You said what I wanted to say for a while.
But there was no comma there.
But instead, PJ takes it as, hey,
so
thanks a lot, PJ.
It's one of those things that and I'm agreeing with you guys. I don't like the precedent that it's setting, with the give a mouse a cookie. And I want to tie this into and start moving on to, because we're seeing this now really badly with two things in particular, but I want to kind of branch it out and go cast a wide net. And I'm really happy you guys are here to talk about it, which you have the Snyder cut, which is, as we all know, tumultuous at best as far as the reaction and the fandom around it. You have Star Wars, which is getting worse and worse by the day as far as reactions. And the question I want to pose to everybody is has fandom gotten to a breakneck point of entitlement to where fans are no longer just fans and they're not appreciating the media that they're consuming, but they're saying, no, this creation owes me X. This has to succeed and it has to accomplish Y. And I want to know at least a little bit around. I want to jump around so I don't have to keep throwing to Eric. Max, how do you feel a little bit about these fandoms and just online? And I'm going to do our best, and I'll comment on something a little later where I really want to keep the forum open and things positive, but it's one of those things where it's how did we get here, and B, how do you keep that forum in a positive light?
To answer your first question,
where there was 8 of them.
Yes.
Okay. What was my first question? I already forgot.
Yes.
Is fandom reached a tipping point of entitlement, basically?
Yes.
Can we also say...
Yeah, go. What's
ahead,
up,
Maxwell?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, Maxwell, go
No,
ahead.
please, I insist.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're also
all I
polite.
was going to say is, to Maxwell's point, reached in it's not just reached. It's been this way since 1999.
Yeah, so Mike K basically said what I was going to say, and PJ too. It's actually gotten worse, but if we're being honest, sorry, I'm so used to controlling, I shouldn't click on someone else's show. I apologize.
You're fine. You're fine.
The seeds have been planted ever since the Ain't It Cool News days. This fan entitlement has probably always been around to a certain extent. I think you go back and look at the reaction to Empire Strikes Back, where some people were pissed. They just didn't have a voice and a platform with which to express their dissent, nor did they have an easy road of access to studios, filmmakers, actors, etc. As the internet has continued to grow and evolve, as social media has taken a huge place in the internet, people think because these filmmakers and actors and studio heads and writers are so accessible that they are there to kowtow to their whims.
Yes.
And to a certain point, I do believe the theory that once a creator is finished creating their work, it becomes the property of those who consume it.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean you have the right to then tell the creator what they did wrong or what they need to fix. You can like or dislike something in its own context in a respectful way.
Yes.
We're so far past respect.
Yeah. It's, to me, and that's why, like, you saw when I first brought it up and we were talking Snyder, like literally Eric and I, has it been 2+ years? How fucking long have we been talking Snyder Cut? Like, and we
pretty close to 2 years.
And we've been doing a lot as far as Star Wars goes as well. And like, we've talked about this. It's been well documented on the other version of Ramble on that, like, I wouldn't say I don't go into a movie with entitlement, but I'll go in with expectations. And how I at least initially view the movie, my expectations will change my at least first viewing. After I take some time away, like, I can really appreciate things for how they are. But when you consider, like, we all know, everyone here in this video, everyone here in this chat knows when you're getting a Marvel property, you can expect this list of things. And it's one of those interesting things where you're taking this fandom, but it's also like, I really hate, PJ, tell me about this entitlement in the fandoms, because I know you have strong feelings about it.
I have very strong feelings about it. I've made it no real secret that I think that one of the biggest problems right now, and it's not just fandom, it's in film in general. Maxwell and I have talked about this a lot. People want to compare things to the thing that they want, not the thing that they get. And that's the problem. There's a certain level of entitlement that continues to happen that is wrong, because you think X thing needs to be the thing you want versus accepting the thing for what it is.
These filmmakers don't owe you anything.
No, and this is look, and like, this is such a weird way to go about it, but look at Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Your feelings, regardless of that film, is that a lot of people are upset because the main thing I always hear is it's not like the other three. Yeah, the point was not to be like the other three. The intent of that movie was to be a 50s serial film. It was a 50s sci-fi movie.
You have like a 70-year-old Harrison Ford in that too. It's not going to happen.
But the bigger thing is they wanted it to be a movie set in they wanted it to be a 30s action serial again,
okay,
which was not the movie that they were setting out to make. So what you want versus the thing that the filmmakers want is completely different, and you need to learn to be able to put your feelings aside and see if you can accept the thing for what it is. You don't have to like it in the end, and that's fine too, but not liking something because it's not the thing that you wanted is a much different thing than not liking the thing, accepting it as it is, but having its own problems with it.
I just want to add, and I know this is a movie show, but for what it's worth, fan entitlement is hardly exclusive to movies.
Yep.
You see it with sports, maybe even worse so with sports. You see it with video games, and some of the worst harassment has been with, say, Mass Effect 3 or The Last of Us Part 2. Yep. You see it with musical artists. And I think PJ's point is cogent. People analyze things in relation to what they want it to be instead of evaluating it within its own context. It's okay if you don't like it. I have no problem with people liking or not liking anything for any reason other than, racism, transphobia, misogyny, et cetera, et cetera.
Which ties into this. It has ties.
It does. No, it certainly does. But as soon as you say, I didn't like that because that's not what I wanted it to be.
Yeah. Then that's a you problem. That's how you're interpreting the media.
I think a good example is Rise of Skywalker.
Yep.
And yes,
Last Jedi to a point.
well, I think certain things that happened with Rise of Skywalker were an unnecessary and unfortunate reaction to The Last Jedi, which I would argue the hubbub surrounding The Last Jedi was from a very vocal minority.
Agreed.
This is the perfect allegory because it feels that same way with Snyder, you know.
And I will say, as a pulp sci-fi adventure, I think Rise of Skywalker is a perfectly enjoyable movie. I also think it made some really big mistakes, and I have a problem personally reconciling with this because I'm sort of being hypocritical about what I just said, because the biggest thing that I dislike about Rise of Skywalker is Rey's lineage. I think it spits in the face of what Rian Johnson set up in Last Jedi. I think it was wholly unnecessary. I think it makes very little sense, and they didn't do a good enough job explaining it. But at the very least, I have points as to why I don't like it. I'm not saying this is what should have happened. I'm saying here is why I don't like it, and here's an analysis why. And that's the difference. Whereas with Last Jedi, so many people who went on and on about it online used misogynistic talking points like Rey is a Mary Sue, which is wrong. They complained about Rose Tico, who is a fucking peach and a wonderful character, and what they did to her in Rise of Skywalker is a shame, and I'm so glad Kelly Marie Tran is the star of Raya and the Last Dragon.
I also would not be shocked if she gets her own Disney Plus series as
if not her own, I wouldn't be surprised to see her
main character
in something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, and you know, a big part of it had to do with the way Luke was treated, which I thought was bold and audacious and subverted expectations in a way that felt like mature filmmaking instead of fan service.
I agree with pretty much everything.
And that's what I'm worried about with the Snyder Cut. I think a lot of it is going to be fan service, which, look, I am susceptible to fan service. When Cap finally wields Mjolnir in Endgame, fuck yeah. But that was also after 20 some odd movies of build-up in a way that felt organic.
The homework was done.
Yeah, and Mandalorian's done a pretty good job of the fan service thing too, and we've also seen it in, say, even WandaVision to a point, right? The fan service that WandaVision, and again, because that's Marvel, they've kind of built it and made it so that they can get to that point where it works. I think fan service is a weird term, not at anyone here, but it's a weird term that people try to use as a bad thing when it's like fan service inherently isn't bad. Fan service done correctly is great. It's when it's forced in because you're trying to do something.
When it's pandering.
Yes.
And a great example of it actually comes from Rise of Skywalker, in my opinion, which is at the Battle of Exegol at the end of the film, when the Falcon shows up, Wedge is shown for like 3 or 4 seconds to be in the gunner seat, where if you don't know that's him, then there's no point to it. Like, it's such a random cameo.
And if you look at like wide shots of that battle, you can see the Ghost is there.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool, but who's going to notice that other than Sean Sullivan?
But like, it's just a weird
and
thing.
And the Damons.
Right. And the Wedge Antilles thing just is so out of nowhere, and just it kind of slaps you in the face. Like, look, it's Wedge. Well, he hasn't been in the other movies. Like, whereas on the other hand, Lando is actually very well put into the movie, I think. Like, Lando's inclusion is perfect fan service done in the benefit of the film. And I think it even works better with the way that they wrote around the stuff with Leia. Because that whole sequence where he's talking to Poe, what a great way to, like, light the fire, if you will, in that situation, to have a legacy character like Lando be the one who gets to push them forward. Like, it's about the intent and the way you do it. Like, we all know that Martian Manhunter is in Justice League now. Yep. What's the point? Why is it there? Like, is it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a weird thing. Like, I don't know. I have to see it.
Is it purposeful? Like, does it organically flow with the story, or was this character included specifically because it's like, oh, he's a fan favorite and everyone expects him to be in the Justice League?
I don't want to spend too much time shitting on the DCEU because I actually think they released a lot of good movies. I love Wonder Woman, Birds of Prey, Shazam, Aquaman.
But before you finish your thought, I will argue that they've been more successful since they haven't tried to have that connection.
That's exactly what I was going to say. But what they did is they tried to reverse engineer what Marvel did, where jumping right from Man of Steel to Batman versus Superman
Was a mistake.
Yeah,
was a
and if you-
mistake because
that's the thing.
you're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks instead of building to it.
And if you go back and you watch early Marvel movies, you know what everything does? There is one fucking scene at the end of the credits. That's it. The connective
Yeah, it
tissue
wasn't
is
even that
like
much.
Or
one
like
scene
Hawkeye
or a
pops in.
line. Yeah, like a character. He's one character that has one scene in Thor. Like they're not forcing you to assimilate all this like media to be like.
And I just want to be clear before anyone attacks me. I think Batman vs Superman is fine. I don't hate it. I think it has some really good stuff in it. I
Me
like
and
the
Dan
Batman,
defended it.
We
I like
did.
the Batman stuff more than I like the Superman stuff in that movie. I thought Ben Affleck was really good.
You want to hear a hot take? I enjoy as far out there as it is. I enjoy Eisenberg's Lex Luthor because he made a choice and he committed.
Yeah, I think it's deliciously campy,
And look, the
and
truth-
it very much makes sense for a 21st century Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I actually like BVS's director's cut quite a bit. Like, I think it still has its own issues. Don't get me wrong.
Bloated. It's so bloated.
But it's still the better version of that movie.
Oh, I agree.
So, like, I mean, but that aside, to Maxwell's point, because they tried to jump into it right away, BVS is such a mess because they wanted you to get behind a Batman who had already lost the Robin, and, like, this Batman's been around for 20 years.
And now, supposedly, we're going to see in the Snyder Justice League flashbacks to when
death
Robin
of-
died. And
Yeah.
it's like still reverse engineering. I do agree, Reef. I think Ben Affleck was great as Batman, and
Yeah.
I am
I
sad
do
that he
too.
never got the solo movie to really shine.
We all
But
do.
thank God he gets to come back in Flash. Like, I think
Yeah,
Andy
no,
Muschietti is smart.
I'm glad he's getting to come back, and I you know.
That's another movie we've been talking about here for literally years. Is the Flash movie? Eric, give me some quick thoughts on your fandoms and how you feel about that, the toxicity that surrounds them.
I'm not sure if you guys ever seen this documentary, but there's a documentary that came out, I want to say 2007, 2008, called The People versus George Lucas. And I thought it was an excellent documentary that really examined, like, who owns the art? Like, when does it stop being the creators? And when do we as fans get to say, you know, this is ours, let us enjoy it? As I mentioned earlier, I think one of the problems fandom isn't a bad thing, because there's some good fandoms out there, but the problem is when people go to extremes and be like, this is my life, if you don't agree with me, you are against me. And I think that just goes back into, you know, we can go into a lot of things, but it goes back to people not being able to just sit back and analyze critically and analyze, you know, look at the art, look at the picture. Picture could be anything to anyone. You see Batman v Superman is the greatest movie since sliced bread. Good on you. Cool. I don't have that opinion, but there's a way you could talk about this and not be just like, you know what? Screw you, screw your wife. I'm going to kill you when I'm done with you. You know, stuff like that. There's fandoms out there.
Someone please take that clip out of context.
Well, look, I mean, and to Eric's point, do we remember when Clark Wolf got death threats because she didn't like Man of Steel?
Yeah.
And that was the first movie in this series.
I saw Joker early at the New York Film Festival, not that early, but a little early, and I posted a negative tweet about it. And I got really hateful, vitriolic comments from people who had not seen the movie.
And that's kind of...
It's like... Oh, sorry, Dan. I was going to say...
go ahead.
I was going to say, I had a coworker of mine, a good friend of mine, Michael. When he first started, he asked me during the first week, he's like, so, what do you think of Star Wars? As a way to break the ice, he's like, well, I love The Last Jedi. So according to the internet, therefore, I hate Star Wars, and I hate everything George Lucas stands for. I mean, that's where we're at, where people can't discuss anything without just, it's all or nothing. There's no middle ground.
And this is a little bit going back to what you said about Clark, and even Max, what you said about the Joker, is it really bothers me almost to my core. Thanks, man. It really bothers me to my core that, like, in this age of where we've gotten to with fandoms, with toxicity, that you are literally in a room full of kindling, just throwing fire, and you don't know who you're hurting. And like the fact that you're reaching out to a stranger, saying vitriolic things, having death threats, like I take that very personally, because no one should have to deal with that for an opinion. Like, these people, some people, it's their jobs and it's their livelihood, and you're coming at them.
We're four white men. Women get it so much worse. Black, indigenous, and people of color get it so much worse. Transsexual people get it worse. So, the other thing
we're fortunate to be, you know,
we're
able to have these opinions, and you know, at the end of the day, I can sleep safe at night because I know no one's going to come after me online and try to do harm to me. But I understand that
It's
other people don't have that luck, and it
I have
sucks.
a
It's
friend
horrible.
who was doxxed for their opinion.
Oh, jeez.
She did not deserve it. It's horrible. I just want to add one last thing about fandom.
Go right
I
ahead,
don't
man.
want to place a blanket statement that it's all bad, because
No.
one fandom
No,
that
no.
comes to mind is something I'm a big fan of. It's coming to an end, sadly. It's the TV show Winona Earp. Earpers, as they call themselves, has to be the most.
That's what my stomach sounds like when I get burpy.
I'm sorry. It sounds so pure, Earpers.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing. Is like
Marshmallows,
this fandom is so empathetic, so supportive. They have built resources and hotlines for mental health awareness and suicide awareness. There are forums and Twitter accounts where if you're struggling, you can reach out and say, "Hi, I'm an Earper. I really need someone to talk to today." So there can be good in coming together over shared interests and passions.
Jen, this is a great take. They've always been there, but they've just had more range now because of social media. A bad take can spread like wildfire because people are bored and reactionary. And I definitely agree with everything you're saying. No, like no news is good news. So when there is bad news, you're going to hear it everywhere. And that's just because it's one of the things I had in the show notes. We're not going, because we're really doing our best to be positive and have inclusivity. And there's like, I have a list of like 4 or 5 people who are in the spotlight and celebrities. And it's like, we're not going to give them the time of day. We're just going to say, we believe the victims and we really want this to be an inclusive environment for all. And it's sad that we've talked about things behind the scenes, and it's going to be like, we don't need to dedicate our time and energy to signal boosting stories that are awful. And so
I hate to use this phrase because it's been co-opted by someone who I think misused it, but be nice to one another. Choose kindness.
there was an article, and you can look this up. I'm pretty sure it was from the Huffington Post, and it not only applies to fandoms, but I read the whole article, but the only thing that really stuck with me is the title. And the title says all you need to know. It's the title of the article is just, I don't know how to tell you should care about other people. And it's just that, it's the thing that we're losing of empathy. Like when going back to like when friends of ours got threats, when Max got just bad shit sent to him, and when our other friend of the show, Clark, got like death threats, it's like, these are things that you should not have to worry about at your job. Like, imagine someone coming into your work threatening you with physical violence or exposing your personal information because you had an opinion on X. Like you didn't like the sandwich you ate at the shop for lunch, but because you did that, then somebody should die.
It was a little soggy, but
yeah, like
you don't need to put mayonnaise on everything. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, that sandwich was soggy. Well, you know what? Your dog deserves to die.
Look,
like,
and in the positivity of all that, the one thing I do want to say is like the Snyder Cut has the Snyder Cut fandom has seriously had like so much negativity, but there are some people who did good in that. Like Mike K is a big part of that fandom. Mike K, I know, was very excited about the Snyder Cut, and there's a lot of really good people who actually raised money for awareness on suicide, and like there's a lot of good stuff that came out of this.
It's always a vocal minority that ruins it for everyone else, but they are so vocal and they are so toxic and vitriolic that it becomes so painful to navigate.
But that's why I wanted to make sure that we also noted, like, because we've been talking so much about it, like, there is good in a lot of that, too. Because the Snyder Cut has definitely done its own good, too. Like, there was a lot of people in that movement. Like I said, they raised money for suicide awareness and mental health stuff because of the stuff that happened with Zach's daughter. Like, they did a lot of good. There's a lot of the people in that fandom that are great. Like, I have spent a lot of time talking and understanding a lot of them where they're coming from because they're passionate about it. And they've never sent me death threats. Like, we've had long conversations, but then there's the other side of it where it's almost political. Like, it's the stuff you've seen over the last 4 years or 5 years and how it's played out where certain groups are being radicalized to the point of cultishness.
Yes.
And that's the best way to say it, is they've been radicalized to the point of cultishness. And so there is something to be said that
trying very hard not to make this political now.
But you know what I'm in. It's
it sort of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I think it shows how social media and the internet can be a forum for those things to happen very quickly.
Very. And so that's all I wanted to say on that, is that at the end of the day, like, fandom is not a bad thing if it's handled correctly and nicely. Be good to each other. Like, there's nothing wrong with kindness. Like,
and I can't wait
empathy.
to see Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead.
Yes,
Leave it
I
at
can't wait.
That movie's gonna rock.
And we're getting a universe out of it.
I know.
know.
I'm so excited because I still think his best movie is zombie movie. So
Yeah, and like I mean, just to that point, they already filmed a prequel movie, I think, to it also, and they're doing an anime series, or the anime is the prequel and the movie's a sequel. I don't know, but they've already filmed 2 of those movies.
let's go. I'm
What does it all
excited.
mean?
It just means we're gonna get to see like speed ramping zombies fighting Joe Manganiello, and it's gonna be badass.
I
And
love
Batista.
everything about that sentence that just came out of your mouth.
I would like Joe Manganiello to come out of my mouth.
That was like, I don't know
Sorry,
if
It was
kids.
right there.
I don't know if
I mean, it was
ever-
sort of like
I don't know if I've ever lobbed you a softer pitch just to like.
home run
So
it.
if I have to put a ball,
that wasn't just a home run. That was a fucking grand slam.
it was a grand slam. I'm okay
There's a
to.
car in the parking lot with a smashed windshield
Its
because of
alarm
that
is
hit.
going off.
And it was totally worth it.
It was totally
Oh,
worth
Totally
worth
worth it.
it. You can bill
Take me
PJ
away.
Campbell at PJ_Campbell.
Oh no, we built Chris Clark here.
Oh, okay.
Chris Clark.
Chris
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
If I can,
Ah,
Join us in an hour and 7 minutes for our front center mezzanine.
if I can just to wrap up that fandom conversation, fandoms are something to be celebrated. They're not
They
something
are.
that you
Yeah.
should really.
I
If you're having an issue with a piece of media or something that is not vibing well with you, that's cool. That's fine.
I wouldn't know
Maybe
any of
don't
the
take it
wonderful
out.
people if not for a shared interest in film and movies.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm
And-
saying,
and
like, you don't need to take out your aggression on other people. If you have to talk with someone, if you have to talk with a professional, that's fine. That's cool. I'm in therapy for lots of different stuff right now, and there is nothing wrong with that. Let's normalize like mental health being something that everyone should be
Yes.
working on.
And let's also just normalize like normal conversation about movies where like I can say this, Maxwell watched The Hateful Eight recently and he didn't love the movie, and it's a movie that I
Did
enjoy
not like
very
it at
much. And we were talking about it, and like he and I were talking through it while he was watching
We
it.
had like a very respectful discussion about why we disagree on it, and then at the end
Yeah.
we're like, okay,
And
What are you
guess
doing
what?
tomorrow?
We're still friends and we hang out every day, and that's just how we
I
roll.
mean,
like,
I did make Dipper and Mabel voodoo dolls that are under my bed, but that's for another.
I mean, please,
That was
they're
'cause of-
so
That's for
cute,
something
though.
else.
Yeah,
One of them,
that's-
at least.
we
Look,
won't
he's
talk
so excited that we're talking. He's just sleeping through our whole
Yeah, I
conversation.
know. Yeah, Ruby, the Ramble
Yeah.
mascot, right here.
Well, I would never
Fell
hurt
down to
Ruby.
sleep.
I don't
No one
have any pets in my room that I can point to. So
Oh boy!
I just
boy.
want to end on
no.
this side.
No,
Oh, no.
don't do it.
No, don't do it, Sean.
Don't
Do it.
Don't
Don't do it, Dan. Don't pull it up.
I won't. Okay. Not
God
good.
damn it, Sean! Stop trying to cause problems.
All I want to say is the internet's a beautiful thing. Social media can be a beautiful thing. Use it. You can have a conversation about anything with anyone. You know, here I am in Ohio talking to Dan in California about all this. I got Max in New York, right?
Yep.
Brooklyn, yeah.
Brooklyn, and PJ wherever he is.
I'm in Tucson, Arizona.
I just imagined you're like in a underwater house somewhere.
He's in a void.
That-
where
Dude,
he
I'm
does
basically
all the
living the Bond villain life. You know,
Right, that's what I
Have you seen
assumed.
Have you seen the Meg?
it's
Yes.
like that.
PJ
Yeah.
lives on that underwater base, and he has incredible views.
See,
His
I just
camera's just pointed at
assumed-
him and not the
Right.
fish.
I just assumed that. I didn't want to put it out there.
It drives Dipper crazy though, because he sees the fish outside and he's
Right.
always trying to catch him. And Mabel's just like, "Could you stop?"
You're like
making
you're
us
like
look-"
Ed Helms in We're the Millers.
yes.
But what I was trying to say is like the internet's great. Like we should be able to have this. You should be able to have these connections, form these connections with people that you may never see in person. But instead, people want to use it to try to bring people down, and that's not cool. Positive vibes, y'all. It's 2021.
Yes. Love it. Yeah, bring it back. I'm okay with that. The fact that both these other guys have control and they can chime in our show and show.
Just like that. See, we can control
Right.
anything.
Now it's the real show.
Okay, that you've taken a step too far. Mike.
You messed us all up. What are you doing? What is happening? Somebody stop hitting the shuffle mode. I can't lock you guys out because it's not a thing. Let's go.
Chaos.
Let's
Chaos.
go back into some more positive news because there's been a lot of like with Ramble on coming back, a lot of it was spurred by that there's actually movie news to talk about again because for a very long time it was just kind of like not dead air, but it was so few and far between.
Right. Like besides speculating who's going to be in Spider-Man 3, I assume all of us at this point.
Yeah, we're all in Spider-Man 3. We're all talking to the Joker, Sean. That you don't have to film that. You can just do that at your house. Like you can talk to the Joker all you want. So
I'm very
That's
concerned.
Hello,
about Sean, you guys.
Bets.
So I want to go, and the first thing I want to bring up is because it dropped today. Is who did anyone on their new release bingo card have Borderlands being so star-studded with A-list cast? Because it's
No.
fucking insane. So Eli Roth is directing the Borderlands movie. I didn't know this until today. It's being penned by Craig Mazin of Chernobyl fame.
Yep.
And who's also doing The Last of Us.
Yep.
Yes, which we'll get to that in a minute. But then the rest of the cast is like Kate Blanchett is coming on to be Lilith. Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be Tannis. Kevin Hart has been tapped to, and we'll get into that in a minute, with Roland. And they announced today Jack Black is going to be playing Claptrap.
So what I'll say about Jack Black and Kate Blanchett is they both previously worked with Eli Roth on The House with the Clock in Its Walls.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's, I think, Eli Roth's best movie. It's his most uncharacteristic movie. And so the fact that they would agree to work with him again makes sense. And then Jack Black reuniting with Kevin Hart, who might
not wrong,
be all
Mike.
my talking points from Jumanji, also makes sense. So the fact that it's Borderlands is wild, but I'm here for it. I saw someone tweet earlier, so Kevin Hart, Jack Black are in Borderlands. I've never played the game. Is it a drama or is it silly? Borderlands is silly as fuck.
It is so silly. It's been one of my favorite games recently. I've played all three of them. The only thing I want to really mention, as far as my opinions go with this movie news, I'm going to be curious to see how they do Kevin Hart as Roland. Just because that character, I think Kevin Hart could absolutely nail that character, but I'm curious to see what they do with it because he could really kill that. But I'm a little sad. There's a gentleman, the voice actor named David Eddings, and that's who did Claptrap initially. And my only apprehension is Claptrap. It's so that whole gaming series, the character of Claptrap is so very clearly that one particular voice. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with Jack Black going forward as far as that.
Although, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion or not, I genuinely believe that Jack Black is one of the single most talented performers of the last 20 years.
Yep.
I think starting back with High Fidelity, everything he's done, even in like bad movies, he brings it as all. He's like a wild genius.
He's never been the worst part of any project.
No, he's always been like, even in bad movies, he's delivering. And then in good movies, like what he did in the first Jumanji movie and his genius. In The Holiday, he's a perfect romantic comedy lead. Tenacious D is one of there's like nothing he can't do.
Well, and remember Bernie also, and that's
Oh,
pretty.
I mean, I
should
think
have gotten an Oscar nom for that.
I agree. And in King Kong, he's fantastic.
Yes, he's great in King Kong.
So if anyone can both create an original creation for the screen while paying respect to something iconic, it's Jack Black.
Long story short, we stand Jack Black at the project.
Oh, big time.
Oh, big time.
Big time.
Like, I'm a huge
I have a hard
Jack
time
Black
saying big time without thinking of Paul Rudd and I Love You Man. Big time.
fan. Big time.
Big time.
Slapping the bass, man. Look, I'll say this. I am not the biggest fan of Eli Roth. In fact, there's only one
Have you seen The House of the Clock in Its Walls?
That's the one movie of his that I like. And that's because he was also having to be reined in. It was a Steven Spielberg production. Like, him being reined in was real interesting. That movie's actually quite good and quite magical and quite different than anything else he's ever done. Like,
Baby Jack Black?
yeah, Baby Jack Black is the most terrifying thing I've ever fucking seen in my life, ever. But I'm very curious about the Borderland movie, if not only because of that, but look at this cast now. Oh yeah, and Tim's right. Jack Black is great in Waterworld. Boom. He's so
Also,
good.
Never Ending Story 3 when he's the villain.
But
Demolition Man.
he's in so much stuff. He's so talented. High Fidelity is where he really took off because it was like his first big supporting performance.
He should have won an Oscar for that movie.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like, I think that look, I'm going to say it now. He should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Welcome to the Jungle also. He is excellent in that movie.
Yeah.
And comedy notoriously does well in supporting like in supporting categories, which is why I would have gone with that. I mean, maybe not that year, but I'm just saying I think his performance at least was nomination worthy.
Oh, for sure. Eric, Borderlands casting.
I'm excited for every time there's a new name attached to this film. I get more and more excited for it because I'm looking for a good video game movie because I haven't seen one since Rampage is probably the best video game adaptation I've seen. And of course, as someone who
Detective Pikachu exists, sir.
Okay, close second.
Sonic's not bad.
Sonic's good.
Yeah, Sonic was good.
I would put those three probably as the top 1, 2, and 3, and of course we can't forget the OG Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat, yeah.
What about Annihilation?
Mortal Kombat.
Oh my god! Wait, Annihilation with
No, he's
Natalie
talking
Portman?
about Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
By the way,
Yeah.
both of those Mortal Kombats next month are coming out on a steelbook. Together.
Ooh.
I
Well,
mean,
we
I'll
know
pick up
PJ.
the Steelbook, but I don't love that second movie. That second movie's real bad.
Mother, you're alive.
You know how
Too
bad
you will
You know
die.
how bad Mortal Kombat 2 is? Christopher Lambert was like, I have done 3 Highlander sequels, and I am not coming back for another Mortal Kombat movie. That is how bad your movie is. Christopher Lambert, who really can't act his way out of a bag, who did 4 Highlander movies, and the pilot episode for the TV show was like, nah, I'm good, actually.
I can't wait
Yeah, I
to
was gonna
flip
say,
that.
I think 3 of the main actors also from the previous movie didn't return.
Yeah.
But that's my point. Even Christopher Lambert, who was in Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, and that movie is god-awful. He was like, I'm good, actually. Mortal Kombat 2? Nah.
Fam.
Nah.
No, fam, I'm out. But as someone who used to be a substitute teacher and walk into the classrooms and all the kids would be excited because they thought it was going to be School of Rock, because I resemble Jack Black so much, I'm excited to see what they do with it. And I agree with what Maxwell and PJ said about the clock, the house with the clock and the walls. That's probably Eli Roth's best film. So I want to see what he can do with this.
Real quick before we get away from this topic. I clicked the wrong one. But yes, everyone drink. I think that's just Max right now because I haven't had.
Oh, really?
But there we go. PJ's drinking too. But Reefism, yes. So there is an amazing series called Legacy, Mortal Kombat Legacy. Yep. It's all up on YouTube. I think it was done like 2010-ish.
Yeah. 2 seasons.
Yeah, the Sub-Zero and Scorpion episodes initially are best, but the Raiden one fucked me up. Like, it's such a cool concept for his particular arc. Like that episode still like the way they shot and show. I don't want to ruin it because it's only a 30-minute episode, but it's really cool and actually has like that particular plot has hints of like the movie Dogma in it. If you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
What was the remake of The Untouchables with Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart?
What was it called? I know.
You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
It was such a big hit too. It did shockingly well.
It did.
The Upside.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Jeremy, I implore you to watch The Upside if you haven't seen it. It's not the best movie. I enjoy it. I think the original is better. Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston are fantastic in it, and Hart gives his best performance. I really mean that. So
I think Hart will be able to stretch some acting chops here.
Oh,
and I'm gonna pivot to this story because Max already mentioned it. There was a rumor floating around earlier today on the internets and the Twitterverse where we thought we were going to get Mahershala Ali as the lead for The Last of Us, the HBO series, and then it came out a few hours later. They're like, "Nope, you're getting Pedro Pascal."
I'll say this: I'm not going to specifically call out the Twitter account that broke that news, but I'll never trust them again. I think they made it up.
No, they didn't, because Deadline in their article said that he had been offered the part, but he had passed on it weeks before. So it sounds like they might have gotten it early on or late, where it was true at one point. So I don't want to disparage them. They clearly had the right info. It was just weeks old, and Mahershala had moved on because my opinion is that it's probably he's getting ready to shoot Blade, and I think his focus is currently on like getting the script on that. And that makes sense. I don't blame him.
But we also just needed to talk about Eric. Do you want to tell us what the pitch you had? I just ran out of room in the title, so I couldn't put it on here.
MVP, most valuable Pedro, goes to Pedro Pascal.
We're giving out awards now. The first Rambles, award goes to
the
Pedro
inaugural
Pascal.
Rambles.
And
the Ramble goes to
we
our MVP.
Inaugural Rambles.
Full like PJCN award show at the end of the year, which are the Ramble-ons.
Yes, okay, we'll host. I'm in, and we can just have people.
We just give ourselves awards for shows. Like Maxwell was the best host of Front Center Mezzanine because Maxwell's the host of the show.
Who gets the inaugural most valuable? You have to every award has to sound like you have a bunch of marbles in your mouth because it's almost impossible.
The most valuable
Rambles inaugural. So
the inaugural for the first ever most beautiful, handsomest man goes to Sean.
Sorry, Sean.
We're allowed to have facts. Facts are okay. That's what we believe in, facts and science here on this show.
We believe in facts, and we believe in stone.
That's right.
And stoned.
Yes, all of the above. But can we also just Pedro Pascal is just a great human, and we're all
Yes.
better off for
So-
having him in every project.
I think he has exhibited in his short but prolific career that there's no tone he can't do,
Yes.
that he has charisma oozing out of his pores.
Mhm.
Like he took a character in Game of Thrones who was in 7 episodes, who in the book was a nothing, and arguably made him one of the most beloved, charismatic
Also that.
characters in Game of Thrones.
Was
Then he,
so
like-
tragic.
Then he like shows up in a small role in If Beale Street Could Talk and is wonderful. Then whatever he did in Wonder Woman 84 I thought was delightful. And
He
Also,
was
King-
genuinely good in Kingsman 2.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And-
Kingsman, the
and-
Golden Circle.
on top of all of this, he is a good human being. Like
Yep.
when the story broke this week about his sister, and how not only does he fully support his sister, but he was a big part of his sister coming out as trans.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we need in the world.
Mhm.
Right. We need more
Especially-
Pedro Pascals.
Which is, it's so funny. I mean, I don't want to talk about it, obviously, but the dichotomy between two separate actors, one being Pedro and one that we're not going to name, from
Yes.
Mandalorian, like, you couldn't see two more different sides of how
What,
to act
what's
towards
what's wrong with Carl Weathers?
Oh no, Carl Weathers is a saint. You got a
Okay.
stew going,
Yeah.
baby.
No, but I
Yeah,
mean,
and
seriously,
then all
like,
of this with Pedro Pascal, and he's also so attractive.
I mean, when you're right, you're right.
I mean, the only reason, the one thing my wife does not like about The Mandalorian is that you don't get enough of Pedro Pascal's face.
And
Which
how
is-
many we all
Which
got
is-
this. It's true.
Well, no,
Um,
and, I was going to say to that point, what's interesting about this, sorry, Dan, not to step on your thought, but with him shooting Last of Us while Mando 3 is supposed to be shooting, I'm curious how much that means he's going to be in or out of the helmet next season.
well, I was gonna say is like, and he's able to emote under all that armor, and you can't tell me the couple of times he's outside of that armor and you actually see his face.
My
That's so emotional.
Yeah,
my guess is Last of Us will be ready to shoot before season 3 of Mando.
that's
Especially now that we know the book of Boba Fett is coming. I don't have any inside information. Would not be surprised if we don't see another season of Mando till 2022.
that was something you and I had privately talked about.
And I think we
originally.
disagreed about it, but now that we have more information and we
Yeah.
see other things, I'm starting to think. I don't think we'll have to wait till fall of 2022, but I think maybe
It'll
first
be
quarter
like
of
spring.
2022. Yeah.
Yeah, because
But I think Last of Us could theoretically, start in September if
Do
it
we-
starts filming this spring.
do we know, is Last of Us going to be an ongoing or is it a mini?
Um,
Have they said?
It looks like I have it up
I don't
here
think
right
they-
now.
I haven't
I think
heard
they've
either
been
way.
coy about it.
It just
Okay.
says it's an adaptation. I'm looking to see if they give any more details. It is, like Max said earlier, it is Craig Mazin again, who also did Chernobyl and he did the latest, most recent draft of the Borderlands.
Right.
No, it doesn't say as far
Okay.
as
I couldn't remember,
How would
and I'm very curious about that as well because I mean, if it's an ongoing series, Pedro's going to be very lucky. He's going to have 2 ongoing series, which not a lot of actors can have.
Although
Yes.
in this world of streaming and cablers where the series are only 8 to 10 episodes, you can make it work with your schedule.
Which is to your
And
point.
still probably have time to go shoot movies.
Yeah, which is what I thought was so great. I mean, to that point, that we're not going to talk about it really, but The Best Man final chapters being a Peacock series instead of a movie where they could get everyone on board to actually do it because a TV show adaptation and finishing that story that way is much easier than doing it in a film
Right.
TV version. So I loved being able to see that they were like, we waited a long time, but we're finally promising to make good on what we said. We're finishing The Best Man. We're going to do it as a 10-hour series instead. And we got everyone to come back. I thought that was so cool. So
for sure. One last bit of casting news that I want to bring up and talk about for the panel is a movie that I didn't even really know. I knew they were doing it again, and we just talked about 2 video game adaptations, and this is a card game adaptation. Excuse me, but Chris Pine is in the Dungeons and Dragons adaptation,
Yes.
and they just announced 3 days ago that Michelle Rodriguez and Justice Smith are also joining it. And then this was the thing that I read, and I was like, "Wait, who?" And the creative minds behind it are Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly of Game
Yeah.
Night. So when I put all that together, I went, "Ooh!" I just got way more excited for that project.
Almost feel like, and I could be talking completely out of turn here, pun intended, that it's going to be a movie about people coming together to play D&D.
Are they just going to have the community episode on a loop as they're writing?
And there will either be like dramatic visualizations of their D&D game, or something like that. Yeah, something like that. I think I would bet with those guys involved and what they've done, that seems like the pitch to me. Especially because the last time they tried a D&D movie, it was so bad.
Yes, it was.
And they've done 2 of them because one of them.
With all due respect to Marlon Wayans
and Tom Baker. We forget Tom Baker's in that movie too.
Oh wow!
And Jeremy Irons.
But it's so funny because I'm 100% where Maxwell's at, and one of the reasons I've been thinking about that a lot, I've been on like a Stranger Things kick again lately. I've been missing the show, and so I started rereading the comics. And in that very first comic series that they did, to that point, is all about what happened with them with the time that Will was in the Upside Down during season 1. But as it's doing that, there's flashbacks to when they were playing D&D together, and it's all wrapped into you start to see visualizations and stuff of their game in the comic, which is very, very cool. And I started to think, what if that's what Dungeons and Dragons was? Like, how dope would that be? That it was like them playing Dungeons and Dragons at a table, but something happens and it becomes real. You know, something like that could be really fun, and it would be unique in the board game.
And what I will say about Game Night is, of all the major studio comedies from the last few years, it is a real movie in so much that the direction, the cinematography, the staging is on point. Not to say there aren't other really funny movies, but it's really at another level with the craft of its filmmaking.
Yay!
I agree.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love Game Night. That movie is brilliant, and it also proves that.
Oh my god! Did you just die? Dead.
Their version.
I'm a mom, not with an ass like that. Thank you.
Their version of Vacation should have been so much better than it was.
Yes.
Because those
I
guys
don't
are
blame
so
them.
Good. Nope, I don't. Either.
It's studio notes.
Oh no, I agree, but that's my point.
Didn't they also write Spider-Man: Homecoming?
They did.
Yes.
They were the last. They were the last writers. It's a damn.
Well, they were working on The Flash for a while, and they were also in the long line of people who sped out as quickly as they sped in.
Oh man, that was a list. We've had that list going since the first iteration.
Because I think
Rick Fumiyawa,
Lord and Miller, I think.
Lord and Miller.
And Lord and Miller, I think, left to go do solo. Which
there
we are.
Now we've landed on Muschietti, which.
Yes, Stardew 2016 Vacation was
really disappointing.
Real disappointing.
Last little bit of movie news that I think is definitely worth. Oh, Eric.
I was gonna say, as the guy who I know for sure plays D&D in this group.
That's true.
I was gonna say, you played once.
Never tell by looking at you.
You were not pointing at Dan when you did that. You pointed that way, and there's nothing next to you over there.
There's a good title.
Oh, there's that right there.
Well, there's
Ramble on.
I'm just saying, Dan is over here.
I'm over there.
He's that way. I'm getting used to it.
There you go. There it is.
I know he played D&D once. I was there
for the audio listeners. None of this makes sense.
Right.
You're welcome.
We're all pointing. That's all.
We're all pointing. We're all at different squares.
Basically, it's that scene in the guns in the office. You know.
That's right. We're having a good old.
There's been another murder,
Eric.
But at first I thought they were going to do the serious Dungeons and Dragons movie again. I was like, okay, please don't do this. But when Maxwell started talking like maybe it's them playing D&D, I was like, yes, because that's what anyone who's ever played D&D is all about. It's like, just take whatever we're thinking and put it on the screen. So it can literally just be them playing Dungeons and Dragons, but it's them, like their narration, their actions. You actually see it on the big screen. Like that's them taking on their characters. So yes, maybe we do get a return of Hector the Well Endowed.
I am an archer.
I mean, granted, we need Donald Glover to be in there.
Yes. No, you need Annie Edison. That's all you really need.
Maybe this is actually the Community movie that we didn't know.
Oh, don't you
do that to me.
6 seasons in a movie, bitches.
Don't give me hope. Last little bit of movie news I want to do as far as news, and then one real quick thing just to recap, and then we'll get you guys out of here because you have another show, and bless you for sticking around for so long. Huge deal Ryan Coogler getting his media banner to sign with Disney Television and Disney Plus. So we're getting a Wakanda series for sure coming to Disney Plus, and it's just like, wow, like so great and so good for him. Like so exciting. This is just going to be us being like awesome. Eric, how excited are you to see those things?
Oh, when I saw that news, I was like, this is the best news to wake. Some of the best news to wake up to, because it's literally like blasting in the face when I read it on my Twitter feed that morning. I was like, this is awesome.
I hear about you being blasted in the face. So.
Eric Muller blasted in the face, but
Go.
I digress. But I mean, Cougar earned it.
What is this?
Oh no! Okay.
Oh no! Oh no!
So I think we're about to be co-opted, and it's not by Time Franco, which is what I was expecting.
I'll do it. I'll do the honors. What is this guy doing here?
Hey,
Zaddy professors in the house.
This is concerning.
Hey, he got the glasses. Both the glasses and the glasses.
Can we help you, sir?
Cheers.
So cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, Maxwell. All right, so here's the pitch for the D&D movie, right?
Bring it on.
You're both kind of right.
It wasn't me. I love
All right, so you're both kind of right.
Let him speak.
So there was a D&D cartoon.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with it,
I know where you're going.
If you're not familiar with it, go watch it, or better, watch the Brazilian car commercial based on it.
You just wrinkled my brain.
It aired in 1983, and it is wonderfully campy.
Okay.
It
How
aired
would you
for
describe the stone?
The stone of it is
Hanna-Barbera.
Dan, please, I watched the show. I'm familiar.
Oh wow!
I'm familiar with the stone.
The stone.
Would you call it more of a reality stone or more of a mind stone?
No, more of a soul stone, really.
Yeah.
No one asked
So
me.
essentially, the D&D cartoon is about 5 kids that get sucked into a D&D game.
Stranger Things.
Yeah.
But better. Yeah, Stranger Things, but better. Because the D&D cartoon knows what a Demogorgon is. Not a weird plant monster. Now, also, Mind Flayer, come on. Look.
I'm with you.
You had Eric.
But the other thing.
Did you just knock your alcohol over?
When did the background change?
Just now.
How much have I had to drink? I have another show to host.
The other
That one's
important
my
thing.
show. I'm just a guest on this train wreck. I say
The
train
other
wreck
thing-
club. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
The other thing. Oh no, Sean Wingblade. The Brazilian car commercial was from last year, based on the '80s cartoon. But the other thing I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up. I think Jared Leto's Joker.
Oh my god.
Oh
my god.
My hands are off.
No, I think he was doing that I think he wanted us to cut him off.
For dramatic
I don't think he
effect.
did. No, I think he wants to talk about Joker because he's
I
been
don't-
trying to talk about it since the beginning of this
I
fucking
don't
thing.
think he does. I think he's being his chaotic neutral right now and just coming in trying to start.
Neutral?
You go full evil?
I
don't
think he did that to himself.
I think he literally put in the private chat that he did it himself.
Now he's giving away the farm for free.
Sure did.
Exactly.
All right. Sean, wait, real quick. Do you want to be on the end of the show or no?
Yes, he does. He has to stay now. He has to stay. He's committed. He must be here till the end.
All right. Well, we did PJ Max, Sean, positives about Ryan Coogler and Disney Plus. Just yes, all around.
Yes,
I think he's a brilliant creative artist. I can't wait to see.
Right. Good for him for earning this.
Also,
Yeah.
But not just that. Like, because of the horrible tragedy of Chadwick Boseman, and they've already come out and said that they're in no way thinking about recasting. This makes the most sense to dive into the world of Wakanda and to start playing with some other characters so that you can
Could be
forward.
an interesting way to bring Storm into the MCU also.
Yep, agreed. I think we're going to see a lot of that moving forward. Is that, in my opinion at least, a lot of these projects Feige has said they don't have any immediate plans for the X-Men as a team. They never said they didn't have any immediate plans
For them.
for the characters. There's a difference in wording, and as we've seen already with the Quicksilver of it all, that's a term that we're going to use from here on out.
All right,
The
so
Quicksilver
we're
of
up
it
to
all.
2. The Quicksilver of it all.
Yes.
And Stone.
And the stone.
And the Stone.
Yes.
Okay.
So the Quicksilver of it all clearly shows that they are willing to play with and dive into the stuff dealing with the X-Men. Maxwell and I have said a couple of times that we think that there's very much potentially going to be a X-Men character again who shows up in WandaVision.
And you can hear us talk more about that on the PJCN Water Cooler Chat,
Correct.
only on the PJCN this Saturday at 12 Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern.
I don't even know if I can cut to that. Let's see if I can cut to that.
And maybe all of us here as guests. Who knows?
That's probably
Well,
true since
I
almost
sure
all
can't
of us
cut
are
to
on.
that. Poop.
Except Sean.
Except Sean.
I got PJ. I got things.
He's got things. He's got things and stuff.
He's a
So-
busy man.
We're all very happy about that. And then the last thing, anyone, I know there was a lot of backlash. Anyone have strong feelings about Golden Globes?
I have really only one strong feeling, and that is the offensive decision to categorize Minari as a foreign film.
Okay.
The Golden Globes, which is just the Hollywood Foreign Press, which is about 90 people who are basically anonymous, have a rule where if a film is predominantly not in English, it gets relegated to foreign film and is not eligible for other categories. That happened last year with Parasite, where at the very least Parasite was made in South Korea. Minari was made in America, financed by Americans, by Korean-American filmmakers and actors. And a film I would bring up is Inglourious Bastards. 70% of Inglourious Bastards is not in English.
Yep. And
But that was nominated for Best
Yeah.
Drama, so I'm offended by that. I think it's a big mistake. Otherwise, the Golden Globes are always dumb. I mean, nominating that autistic nonsense by Sia, where she's casting non-autistic people to play autistic roles, is ridiculous. But they do what they do. They're star fuckers. It has
Right,
very
they
little
just-
credibility in my mind.
Like nominating Jared Leto for the little
But
things.
he got a SAG nomination too, and he's on his way to an Oscar nomination now.
Really? I didn't hear about the SAG before him. But I mean, yeah, it's all because before COVID, it was all about let's get as many celebrities inside a little room as drunk as possible.
Yeah.
For the ratings.
And to that point, the Golden Globes, other than the Independent Spirit Awards, I think is the most fun show to watch on TV. But the veracity or credibility of the awards themselves, meh.
Yeah.
It hasn't come out.
No, they just announced the nominations.
was
I
last
think
week.
it's like February 27th, 28th.
I have it in front of me. It is. Where the fuck is the?
And I will say I'm excited for the show
you-
only because Tina Fey and Amy Poehler are returning as hosts. But what's fun about it is Tina's going to be hosting from New York and Amy's going to be hosting for LA. So they're co-hosting from opposite
cool.
sides of the country,
That's fun.
which is much like Ramble On.
Right. Much like this
tying
show.
it all back in. It was February 28th. The only thing I heard about the Globes was the big snub to I May Destroy You from HBO, and I need to watch that because I've heard nothing but glowing things about it.
It is devastating to watch. It's very hard to watch.
And then the last thing, Max, you said that it was like Minari being in foreign film. It literally says next to it on Wikipedia, I have it up on the other monitor, that says it's from USA. So I don't know what the hell they're saying.
So Mike K says the benefit of the doubt that it's foreign language film, not international film. Okay, but then also saying it's not eligible for other categories because if you look at SAG, it got
Huh.
Oh.
Well,
okay.
that's
Wow.
interesting.
Steve Ewan and the other actress whose name I can't forget.
I could probably pull it up for you.
I believe got SAG nominated and are definitely in the Oscar hunt. I think they did the same thing to The Farewell last year, actually.
Was it Han Yi Ri?
Yeah,
I think you're
Or Yuri
right.
Han?
I think they did the same thing to The Farewell last year. I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, we're whatever you need us to be, man. We are flexible in more ways than one. So
I bet you're flexible, Daniel.
So
All
we
that
have
soccer playing.
Stone, and we have the Quicksilver of it all. So if we're doing a little bit of cleanup as we start to wrap up this show, let me see if I can fit it. We do have a Patreon. Go there,
Yay.
focus on things. It's the Pajokin.
Joking.
We are lucky enough that oh hey, two of these guys are going to be right back here on the
Hey.
channel.
Hey,
in
that's
like
me
half
and
an hour.
Maxwell.
That's those guys, and then Amelia Barr is going to be joining them.
Look at all those beautiful people on one
I
screen.
mean,
shot.
I know, right? I don't want to even have us end the show. I want to keep staring at Max and PJ. But wait a minute, I want to go staring at Max and PJ. So, first off, Sean, thanks for crashing. Do you got anything to plug?
I didn't expect you to actually put me on screen, so I apologize for that.
I love the background right now. We're having a party.
Never apologize.
Yeah.
What
no,
background?
It was that. Oh, you.
I don't know
The
what you're
lighting
talking about.
effect.
You cheeky fucker. Plug something. He took it wrong.
You know
You
what?
said
In
plug
his
something,
place,
and I think he unplugged it.
plug our Patreon.
Yeah.
Join the Patreon. If you are
Do that.
new here, there's a Patreon, Discord, and everything. There's a tier for everybody. Join the Patreon, you scallywags.
Sure did. I didn't do a good enough job. Thanks, PJ.
I
this
just
is
wanted
Dad-
to do it since we dropped Sean out. You know.
Dad finger wagging at me.
No, it's because Sean dropped out, and I'm going to take his airtime.
we'll say he dropped out. We'll say that's what happened.
Monkey shoulder whiskey. Drink it.
Oh,
Wait, hold on.
Hey!
We can do a double plug. Double plug. Double plug.
plug.
you mean this
One
stuff
of
here?
us. One
I
of
think
us.
that Monkey Shoulder should actually, sponsor the network.
I have to say, I only discovered Monkey Shoulder because of a show that our good friend Jake Berlin hosts called The Whiskey Jedi.
Name
I am
dropping.
definitely a whiskey snob.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about whiskey.
I tend to like expensive stuff, like $150, $200 bottles. Not gonna lie.
That's expensive.
Monkey Shoulder is only about $35, and it's as good as any of those, or a good majority of those other stuff. It's so smooth, it's so flavorful, so drinkable, it's
You are-
robust, it's really good.
I'm
We are
going to
not
buy a bottle
sponsored.
off of
I was
you
going to
guys.
say, we're not sponsored. However, Monkey Shoulder.
Also,
if that
I
algorithm
love,
is being
like,
triggered,
the attention to the bottle here. They have these metal monkeys that are like on. It's just really for the price, can't be beat. Really can't.
for anyone who's wondering, this is Ramble On. This is how far we go.
I
We're
mean,
all
this
over
is the
fucking
network.
place.
Monkey shoulder. If you
Yep.
want to
I'm,
sponsor us,
I'm seeing
you can
two
put
Erics,
monkeys
and
on my shoulder.
I'm confused.
For those wondering, Monkey Shoulder is a blended malt scotch.
Scotch.
It is, I believe, a Speyside blend with a very orangey, slightly acidic nose, if I'm being honest, but the actual mouthfeel is so smooth. It's got vanilla
dribbled.
and
I just
honey
dribbled down
and
my chin.
caramel.
Smooth mouthfeel. Okay, I'm in. All right. So,
done.
Seriously,
Sean,
no
I'm
one's
kicking you
gonna
out
say
again.
phrasing?
We got to try to end the show because these guys need a break.
I'm
before they come back.
getting notes of bisexuality and musical theater. Oh no, that's just my
Little-
mind. I'm
I would
sorry.
little bit of
Are you looking in a mirror?
Little bit of spiced oak.
Okay, Sean.
A
I love
little
you.
bit. It's a symphony.
Sean, I love you. We'll talk soon.
It's like,
you guys-
that's great, Sean. Get the fuck out of here.
it's more along the line of like, if you guys don't let me end this show, we're gonna overlap with yours, and I want to make sure you can be ready. So, I'm actually gonna go only because, well, you're both hosts. I don't know who the fuck. We'll just do this at the same time. Who's Max? Tell me something. You're plugging things. I already plugged something you did or you're going to do, but I think you guys have talk about this.
Yeah, so in half an hour right here on the PJ Campbell Network, it's our bi-monthly show, Front Center Mezzanine. It's a theater-focused podcast. We are joined by Amelia Barr. And what I keep saying about Amelia Barr is you don't know her name yet, but you will. I think in my travels, one of the most singularly talented people I've ever met. She only graduated from Musical Theater College in 2018. She was performing on cruise ships up until COVID, so I'm excited to talk to her about her many productions she did in college, her training, her time on the cruise ship, and also just, we've had a lot of very notable people on Front Center Mez. I also want to use it as a platform to prop up people who I think are going to make it, and she is one of those people.
Get the early word out.
Fantastic. Oh, Sean's back. PJ, plug some shit.
You know where to find me here, hanging out with all these cool people, and I guess Sean. You find me at the Movie Trivia Schmodown, where I write the questions. Be nice to the question writers. We're only human. That includes one of the people here because he actually plays the game and will yell at me later if he misses a question. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PJ_Campbell, where you can find Maxwell and I just talking about movies there too.
And literally,
I'm on
30
Twitter.
minutes from now,
Sometimes, yeah.
30 minutes from now, on this channel. Don't touch that dial.
Actually, like 28 minutes, really.
I know.
You do have to
20
touch that dial because you do have to click to the other link, but
I was making Max. God damn it. Anyway,
I don't
You
want
know
anyone
what?
to
I don't
not
know if
touch-
I like your joke right now, sir. Not Maxwell's are always welcome.
oh,
Yeah.
you don't
Hey, guys,
like mine well.
I just want to remind you that this is Daniel's show.
I mean, kind of. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. That being said, the only thing before I kick all three of you out and Eric finish up, we are still, thank you, PJ Campbell Network, and we can all click on the same comment. You can go here. But we're Eric and I we're trying to figure out. We don't know. We know Front Center Mez is like twice monthly. We don't know if we're going to do this twice monthly or weekly or once a month. So let us know if you want to hear more of us rambling and our friends rambling and us just talking about random movie shit. Let us know.
I vote weekly because I do think if we're talking behind the scenes on air, the one thing our network is missing is a movie news focused show, and I would love to hear you guys talk about it with other
I
guests.
mean, if you want,
If the demand
you
is there,
insist. Well, he is the producer.
I would
so-
like you to come back every time, every week.
I mean, well, I get.
I don't want to be here every week.
I,
You don't
I
yeah,
want
have
to
to
see
be.
other guests.
yes. All I want, it's one of those
I
things.
work at this time, and I don't know anything about movies, so leave me out of
I
it.
like that your background is
Sean,
just
why
straight
are you in a gay disco?
Well, Max, I just wanted to impress you.
No,
That don't impress me much.
I was gonna pull the trigger on cutting him out, but that was so sweet. But let's say, Sean, that was you can't top that. So goodbye.
Speaking of top that, make sure you watch Teen Witch, available now on HBO Max.
That's for Brandy Parker, our executive producer.
Stop that.
And all right, PJ, have fun. That's it. We made it.
We did it.
all the way through.
Right,
It's an
we
hour and
came
a half.
back. Right,
That also felt like our show.
it really did.
It really did. Everyone, we got some good. We had some laughs. We have really good talk about
Right.
fandom. We got to talk casting news like that.
We did it all. We touched everything.
If we're doing this weekly, that feels like a hell of a way to come back. It's what an
Yeah.
guys. Thank you, everyone who watched.
Thank you.
We appreciate you very,
You're all
very
beautiful
much.
people.
Yes, make sure you keep following us on social media. That guy right over there is handsome_cheese on the Twitters.
I'm still getting used to this. And that is oh hi, Dan. on the Twitter.
OHHI, Dan and I, all one word.
All one word.
We'll be here. I guess we'll be here next week because we'll
Yeah.
see what goes. Yes, thank you. Hey, you know what? We appreciate you. Thanks, Reef.
Thank you.
We hope to be around more, and we are going to do our best to do that. So,
And before we go, I just want to make a one plug myself.
yes.
As you can see over here, it is Ruby. This is Ruby. This is her. This is her gotcha day. This is when we got her 4 years ago. So I'd like to make a plug for don't buy, save or rescue.
Rescues. Yes, please do. Ruby's amazing. She is the mascot of Ramble On, and thank you very much, everybody. As always, Ramble On.
Anger's away.